Hey everybody, and welcome to Ringsiders Wrestling. It's Katie Johansson, joined always by Callum McInnes.
Cheers, Kat.
And today we've got a special guest. Contrary to Chris Jericho's beliefs, it's not Alan Eagles. In fact, Alan Angels. Alan, thank you for joining us.
Hey, good to be here, man.
Now, really excited about this. Me and Callum was just talking, I think, from the AEW Dark and your time against Kenny Omega as well. You've been blowing everybody out the water. The internet's been talking a lot about how you've come across in that match this past week. Fenix, fantastic match again.
I put out a tweet the other night during AEW Dark saying that we'll be interviewing you. And within an hour, we had about 30 likes and there was loads of questions coming in. And there's so much hype around yourself at the moment because you've just been, as Kurt said, knocking it out of the park with every opportunity you've got with AEW so far. That was mine and Kurt's first exposure to you. And admittedly, when you came out, I just thought, it's just, an enhancement match or something. And at the end of it, I was like, I need to see more of this guy.
Yeah.
So that's when I messaged you straight away to say, dude, we need to talk and find out a bit more about yourself. So what's it been like for you the last couple of months? Like, it seems like it's been a bit of a roller coaster for you.
Yeah, man, it's been, it's definitely the biggest thing that's ever happened to me in my career. And just like, I'm super grateful for any opportunity that I get in AEW, I kind of live by the whole like luck and skill equals opportunity kind of thing. And then when you get that opportunity, like, you got to deliver. And if you don't deliver, that, you might not ever get another chance again. So, and I've just been trying to, it's just as big of a shock to you guys as it is me. It's as big of a shock to everybody as it is me. I didn't expect to get as much in as I did with Kenny nor Fenix for that matter. I'm just super grateful. My social media is just blown up like crazy. I've never, experienced anything like it. I've been wrestling for about 4 years now, and it's just it's definitely the craziest thing that's happened since then, and I'm super grateful for it. And hopefully it just keeps going up from here.
Well,
Yeah.
that's you mentioned you got more in than you thought with Kenny, but there was parts of that match where I actually thought he might actually beat him here. Like, if you're doing a good job when you can come in as an unknown, but then go up against someone against Kenny Omega and have convincing near falls. Like, there was parts where I thought he's going to pull out the upset. This is crazy. But like you said, you've been wrestling for 4 years, which would make it 18 years old when you started training.
Yeah.
Because you're only 22 now, which I find crazy because with your beard, you look older than I do, and I'm 31 years old. But
the hair, man. Just head of hair.
I'd rather have the beard, believe me. But where did you start training then? Take us back to when you first started training.
I started training in Atlanta at the WWA 4 under a guy named AR Foxx, who you may or may not have heard of.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's an insane talent, and I'm super grateful to, have trained under him. I worked there for a while, and I trained there for maybe 18 months. Well, probably around 2 years, and then around the 2-year mark, I stopped training there, and I started training at the Power Factory that's now known as the Nightmare Factory under QT Marshall.
Yeah.
And it's and those two guys are just so opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to wrestling. Foxx is just one of the most like innovative guys that I've ever met in wrestling, and he's always in the ring trying to think of stuff. Even when he's hurt, like I remember times when he was hurt and like his neck or whatever would be hurt, he would just be in the ring, not necessarily like doing a lot, but just like, I don't know. And I kind of adopted this from him, just standing in the ring, just kind of looking around and thinking of stuff to do, And I don't know. That's how he thought of a lot of stuff, just being inside the ring and just, I guess, kind of getting used to it, but also kind of just thinking on stuff you can do and different things you can do. While QT is on the complete other end of the spectrum, and he's just super by the book, but he's so good at it. He's so good at the basics, as far as selling and just like telling a story and psychology. So good at all of that. Yeah, he's definitely one of the best, and I'm definitely grateful that I got a chance to learn from both of them before I got this match with Kenny and then Fenix, because I definitely applied what I learned from both of those guys in both of those matches.
Yeah, I mean that's an incredible spectrum of knowledge there. You say you've got AR Fox and QT Marshall, like they're completely different. You've got QT Marshall, who's very old school, like a bit of an Arn Anderson, and AR Fox, who's known for being a bit of a high flyer. And I think when you measure those two together, it reflects in the style that we've seen from you so far. It's quite a hybrid style, if you ask me. It's you can do the wrestling, the chain wrestling, but there's also hints of high flying, the striking, and I think that's why you matched up so well against someone like Kenny Omega.
Yeah, he's kind of on the same wavelength, I think, as far as like wrestling style, and that's just kind of how I am. I mean, I can do some flips, but I'm certainly not Fenix or anything, or Foxx for that matter.
I don't think anyone's Fenix.
Yeah, that's true. He's an insane talent. You saw where he did the triple springboard and then like fell backwards and then jumped back up during our match. The way he saves stuff sometimes is insane. Like
it's as if he means it to begin with, because nobody can be that good at recovering a fail.
No.
Well, that's what a lot of people backstage said. They said that some of them thought that he did it on purpose, but no. Yeah, it was crazy.
So what prompted that change then, from having that decision of AR Fox is great, but actually I'm going to go learn something completely different and go under the tutelage of QT Marshall?
Well, I think a lot of it was I wanted to be a well-rounded wrestler. Not that Foxx isn't good at, the basic stuff, but I think learning that old school style really, and like one thing we never did at the WWA 4, and this isn't a knock or anything, it's just we never learned how to call it in the ring, call it on the fly. At QT's very good at that. He was, he started training back in a time when, that was the norm still kind of. And, he was wrestling guys that only knew how to call it in the ring. So, he had to know how to do that, and he passed it along to me, and it was very good experience and a very good thing to know, even though nowadays you don't do that a lot. You never know when maybe a guy gets knocked silly and kind of forgets the match. You got to be able to talk to him. And
such a good skill to know as a professional wrestler, because like you said, if you get a spot perhaps, or if somebody gets knocked silly, you need to know how to improvise. And like, you can understand how daunting that would be for a wrestler to do. Like, oh yeah, we won't plan anything, I'll just see you out there. That would terrify me. I'd want to plan every single spot. But like you said, that's not realistic. You need to know the fundamentals. You need to know how to call it in the ring. And from what you've said, there's no one really better to do it from than someone like QT Marshall.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's, he has a wealth of knowledge, and super grateful I was able to learn from him.
Yeah. So what was your thoughts when you went there before it became like the Nightmare Factory, and then all of a sudden AEW has become a thing? It's been taken over as the Nightmare Factory with Cody Rhodes. How did you think, hey, this could be my big break? What was your thoughts process for that? Because it's lucky quite. You mentioned it earlier, it's part of skill and luck, and you decided to go train there, and then all of a sudden it's got that influence from AEW.
Yeah, I mean, every school that you go to, I think, and every trainer that you train under is gonna give you some sort of promise, or like whatever, that you will get an opportunity because of people that they know, or whether it be like one company or another. Like, everyone always gives you like a promise. And the thing that I think drew me to QT's school is that there wasn't really a promise at the beginning, because he had just started it. Like, I joined just a few months after he had started. I think I did like one or two, like I went there once or twice when they first started. And it was just like every now and then thing, and then eventually it just got more and more. But yeah, there wasn't really any promise because, you know, he knew people, but it wasn't really like you know, I can't promise you anything. And to this day, he still, you know, he can't promise you anything as far as the Nightmare Factory goes. You know, like you can't. He's not gonna give you any false hope. You know what I'm saying?
The only promise they should be making you is that they're going to give you the best wrestling education, and it's up to you what you do with that from the hard work.
Yeah, that's exactly what he you know, portrays onto the new students and everything. And you know, I just want, and he tells you, you know, you just gotta want to learn. Like that's why you're here. You're here to learn. You're not here to get an opportunity or whatever. And he sees through all that too. You know, if somebody comes in knowing that he works for AEW, you know, he sees right through it, especially if it's like a guy that's been wrestling for a while, hasn't gotten a break, and he just shows up every now and then kind of thing. Like he sees through all of that. It's a very genuine kind of thing. He's a little bit of a hard ass, but like he's a genuine person, you know, so he's gonna see through all the BS, you know?
Yeah, I think that's the best way to be as a trainer. You can't promise anything because you can't promise how things are going to happen in, like, if you've got 100 students, you can't guarantee what's going to happen in 100 people's careers. And
Right.
we were speaking to Marek Brave yesterday from the Black and Brave Wrestling School, and he said something very similar. Like, he doesn't make any promises to anybody. If you come into the school, it's not to train just with Seth Rollins to try and get a chance in NXT. It's because you want to get the best education in wrestling. And it sounds like so far you've got probably one of the best you can get from QT Marshall, AR Foxx. AR is somebody that I've been a fan of for a while. Watched him a lot in PWG and blew my mind then. And it blows my mind how young he is still. He's only 32.
Yeah.
And for someone that young to be training is incredible. And it sounds like you've had a really good start in wrestling in the last 4 years.
Yeah. I've had a lot of opportunities to do a lot of cool stuff, and it's really cool.
Yeah, man. So speaking of like an education, a lot of people that I've spoken to in the past where they've managed to face their trainer, it's one of their highlights of their career. And for Georgia Premier Wrestling, you actually faced QT back in February. How was that experience for you? Again, you mentioned he likes to just call it in the ring. What was that like?
It was fun. You know, it was super, super easy. You know, we weren't trying to do anything crazy or anything like that. But I just, you know, it was just a good, like, little technical wrestling match, and you know, super basic, but at the same time, really fun. I love doing stuff like that. Hopefully, I get to wrestle him on a even bigger stage one day.
Yeah, man. So how did the AEW stuff come about then? Obviously, your first match again, Nightmare Factory, Lance Archer. What was that conversation that was had before you made that debut?
You know, we just he came. We just happened to be at the AEW taping, and it's kind of a thing where you know, you always bring your gear. You know, like always sure you're you got it on you, because you never know when you'll be asked to wrestle because of one reason or another. And yeah, they came up to me. They said it was very last minute. It was like there was maybe 2 matches between when he told me and when the match happened.
Really?
So yeah, so I my dress clothes, and I just had to run to the trailer, get changed, and then find Lance and figure out what we were gonna do. And yeah, it was super easy. You know, it was only like 2 or 3 minutes. So you know, it wasn't much to worry about. But I was definitely in a rush for sure. And I like to think about what kind of facial expressions I'm gonna make, and like body language, and like what I'm gonna do in my entrance, and all that stuff. So like, to me, that was the most stressful part, thinking about every like little in between moment of the match that there was, and how I'm gonna sell this, and how I'm gonna take that, and stuff along those lines. But it was pretty simple, and you know, we kept it basic, and it was fun. It was a good time. He's a huge guy, so like I'm probably more nervous about that match than the Kenny match, just because, you know, he's a big dude and could probably kill me if he really wanted to.
Yeah,
So,
it's not just a gimmick, the Mayor
yeah.
Hawk thing.
big dude. So.
What was the feedback like then when you got back? Obviously, it's impressive. You said you had 2 matches to prepare. Like,
Yeah.
what was the feedback, and who was it that was speaking to you backstage afterwards?
You don't really get much feedback for like a squash match, like it's kind of like expected that you just go in there, you take your bumps and you sell and you do a good job. And I mean, maybe someone will come up to you and tell you did a good job, but besides that, I mean, not much. The best feedback I've gotten so far was after the let's see, I guess it would have been after the Fenix match. Chris Daniels came up to me and he gave me some pointers and just about it was mostly about my entrance and making it more of a presentation as opposed to just going out there and kind of showing yourself, I guess. He said just kind of make it bigger and be more of a out of this world character, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so speaking of this out of the world character, what would that be for Alan Angels? Like, if Alan Angels was to come out larger than life, what would we expect to see?
Yeah, I'm still working on that. It's a work in progress. It's hard. Sometimes it's hard to find that, but I think I'm on the right track. I've been cutting these promos lately that I've really been liking. I don't know if you guys have seen them, but I really like them, and it's kind of this I like to say like over the edge kind of thing. I'm success obsessed. I'm a little like the pro wrestling world has kind of driven me over the edge, like, and it's kind of true in some respects. Like, obviously not to that extent, but it's frustrating sometimes when like, I don't want to say I'm bitter about it, but guys that you started training with are getting opportunities that you're not getting, and even though I'm getting those opportunities now, like, I still kind of try to bottle that frustration into these promos. I've been watching a lot of Roddy Piper promos lately and just portraying that energy into them. And I think I'm on the right track with it. I think the Fenix match was probably the best I've portrayed that character. Just kind of intense, a little crazy, a little, just like I have to win. And if I don't win, I beat myself up about it, kind of thing.
Do you think there's a lot of truth to what every wrestler says, where they say the best character to have is just yourself with the volume turned up?
Absolutely. And I do think that's a real thing. And I think it's just finding that, because I know for a while it was really hard for me to find that, because the thing about characters and a lot of wrestling characters is they're just one thing. You know what I'm saying? They're either super excited all the time, or they're, super mad all the time, or they're, whatever, whatever you want to be. But, humans aren't really like that. Humans are all over the place. You go through 40 different emotions every day, so pick one of those and turn that up to 10. And then there are the guys that are able to do that, and I think those are some of the best characters, and they're that character all the time, like Ric Flair. But at the end of the day, he is kind of crazy. So like, it's just like you don't want to be that, but at the same time, you gotta want to just find that one little piece of you and just extend that. And I think I really did. I have this sort of mean streak and this sort of like bad attitude sometimes, and I try to bottle that up into promos and into the ring.
Yeah, that's kind of the impression I've got from you so far with the few times I've seen you in AEW. And I think it's why I wanted to get you on the show so much, is to find out a little bit more about who you are as a character as well. Because you seem like one of these like really intense dudes who's just going to come out and kick your ass, but there's a little bit more to him. Like, and I think that's really exciting about these new wrestlers, and especially AEW. We're seeing these faces which we're not always familiar with, and we're getting to learn about who they really are. Like Orange Cassidy, for example, someone I've been a fan of for a few years, but I feel like I'm really getting to know who he is now as a character. Now he's in AEW, and he's got that platform to do it. And do you feel like AEW in general is just giving these, I don't want to say indie guys, but like these lesser known characters a platform to really show who they are?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree with that. I think, and man, Orange Cassidy is I don't even know if I could call him underrated anymore, because everybody is seeing like exactly how good he is in the ring. And
Yeah.
I do applaud AEW for giving all of us a platform to really, show who we are as characters, and just giving us more time on camera and stuff like that. It really helps the little guy, I guess,
Yeah.
Well, speaking of more time on the camera, then you mentioned the Lance Arch match, just a squash match, but then you get told you're going to go against Kenny Omega, arguably one of the best in the world.
Yeah.
Ray Phoenix, another one, regarded as one of the best like high flyers in the world. And you've got minutes. You've got minutes to get your stuff in, to show who Alan Angels is. Like, what was your mind going through there? Like, you've been desperate for this break, and now, before you know it, you're against two of the best in the world on national television.
Yeah, so the Kenny match was only supposed to go 4 minutes, but we ended up going 6.5. And I think there's a few reasons. One, because Kenny knew who I was. We did a spot on an indie show before Double or Nothing last year. And it was just like a little spot. And he knew who I was, and he knew that I guess he knew I was reliable. And, he let me get my stuff in. As we were calling the match, I know we only have 4 minutes, but, he just keeps adding stuff to do. And I'm just like, this doesn't seem like it's going to be 4 minutes. But of course, I'm not going to say anything. One, he's the EVP, and two, like, I'm getting my stuff in. So, like, I'm not going to complain. Yeah, it was awesome. And doing that match, once I was told it was happening, it was kind of surreal. But then, like, once the match was over, I was kind of just like on this high that I'd never really been on. I was like, man, I really just wrestled Kenny Omega in front of 1 million people watching on TV. Like, that's like the craziest thing. Like, even saying that sentence is insane to me. But it's awesome. And then the Ray Phoenix match, honestly, I think because of the Kenny match, they gave us 8 minutes for the Phoenix match. It was also on Dark, so you're probably going to get a little more time, but we had 8 minutes to just do our stuff. And I think that's probably my favorite match I've ever had in my career. It was really fun. And I've never got to wrestle somebody that was specifically trained as a luchador, like in Mexico, So it was really fun, and it was really interesting just getting to work with him and getting to, get my stuff in on him.
So we've spoken about the matches you have had in AEW so far. They've been a resounding success. Like I said on Twitter, you are making waves in AEW at the moment. Can we expect to see more of Alan Angels in AEW? Can you give us any insight into where your AEW career is going?
So when is this going to air?
This is airing on, tomorrow, Friday.
Okay, well, I'm going to be on Dark next week, so that'll be pretty cool. I'm supposed to wrestle Sammy Guevara, and that'll be really fun.
That'll be good. That'll be
hopefully good. They announce it by then. I'm pretty sure they will. I don't think I'll get in much trouble, but, so that'll be cool. Besides that, dude, I don't know. Hopefully I get the call back, and, they want to have me do some more stuff. But, yeah, Sammy Guevara next week. That'll be really fun. I've been really looking forward to that. I've been watching him wrestle for a really long time. So, yeah, it'll be awesome.
He's incredibly good for his age as well. Like we're saying, you're only 22. You're still young as well. And so is Sammy. And I can't get my head around how he can be that good at wrestling at such a young age. Like, yeah. Sammy seems like he's been doing it for 10 years. And now he's under the tutelage and mentorship of Chris Jericho. You can only imagine where he's going to be in 10 years' time. Like, he's a guy I see really breaking out in AEW.
Yeah, I think Sammy, I think him, Darby Allin, MJF, I think those three guys have gotten the most out of AEW so far. And just, as far as getting their name out and really solidifying themselves as, like, main eventers. And, like, I think a lot of the guys, no offense to them, but, if they left AEW right now, I don't know, like, how big of stars they would be in other big companies, but I think Sammy, Darby, and MJF, if they left AEW right now, they would be just fine.
They have what everyone says, like, is the it factor. Like, they've got something about them which just draws you to them. Like Darby Allin to me has that kind of like Jeff Hardy charisma where you can't quite put your finger on what it is, but he seems larger than life. And Sammy Guevara is just a fantastic heel. And MJF, I mean, that guy, there's not many heels that come along where they suspend my disbelief and I actually want to like punch them in the face. But MJF, he's one of those guys.
Yeah,
I really do hate that guy. And
I met him in London, and for our picture, he ended up just turning on me and putting the bed straight to my face. I was like, okay, cheers for that. But
yeah, they're all really good.
Yeah, you seem really excited about the Sammy Guevara match, and obviously that's going to just be another one in the story of Alan Angels and your matches with AEW. Is there anybody else on the roster where you're like, whether it's on Dynamite or whether it's on Dark, and you're going to get a little bit of time that you're like, man, I got to get in the ring with them?
Yeah, it'd probably be Darby. I think Darby is just so good. I think he has it all, and if I could hold my own against a guy like Darby, who I legitimately think is one of the best in the world right now, like, it'd be great. I've trained with him before, and it's really crazy being in the ring with somebody that's really good. It just feels different. It's kind of hard to explain, but like it just feels different when you're in the ring with someone that's like on another level,
Yeah. Does it feel like the match flows better or like it's effortless to do?
Yeah, it does feel like it flows better, but it's also kind of one of those things where you have to keep up, and it's just you're like pushing yourself to keep up with this guy that's really good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's one of those things. But if you can keep up, obviously the match is so much better.
So let's say that your AEW career takes off down the line. What else is on your bucket list? Because I'm guessing wrestling for AEW is one of those things. Is there anything else that Alan Angels wants to do? Whether that's like wrestling in Japan or coming over to the UK for a tour? Like, what else do you want to do?
Yeah, definitely all of that.
Come to the UK because that would be amazing if you did.
Yeah, I would love. I want to go everywhere. I want to, I feel like if I wasn't a wrestler, I'd be some sort of travel blogger or something like that. Like I love traveling. It's like my thing. I love seeing sights and stuff like that. Obviously, when I'm wrestling, I have a job, and sometimes you can't see the sights and stuff like that. But I always try and make time for that stuff. So, yeah, I'd love to go everywhere. And then, really, my main goal. Well, not my main goal, but the big one would be Japan for me. I would love to wrestle over there sometime. That would be an absolute treat to, wrestle over there and wrestle some of the guys over there. Yeah, Japan, dude, I'll wrestle anywhere, I think it's, like I said, I just love traveling. So I really want to go to the West Coast too. The Seattle, Washington area. I don't know if you guys know much about like United States indie wrestling and stuff like that,
Yeah,
but like that area.
For a long time.
Yeah, Seattle and Washington, like that area is awesome. They have some really good talent up there, so I'd love to make it up there, and of course, like California and stuff too.
Nice. Is it? Go on, Colin.
I was going to say, is there anywhere in the UK that you're familiar with, like when it comes to promotions? Because I can already think of a couple where you'd fit in really well. Somewhere like a Progress or a WrestleGate Pro, which has like an emphasis on that hard-hitting, striking style. And I think that's somewhere you'd fit in really well.
Yeah, I mean, I know like the big promotions like Rev Pro and Progress and stuff like that. I'd love to make it over there. There's a few like small ones that Shug D, who wrestled last night against Jericho, that he has connections with that I think hopefully he could help me out with. But I would love to just wrestle at anywhere over there. WXW, man, like their stuff is solid, and I would love to make it over there too.
No, that'd be incredible. So have you managed to like watch your matches back? Because you've had Tony Schiavone and Chris Jericho calling that Kenny Omega match. Obviously the Alan Eagles stuff. What was your first reaction to Jericho calling you Alan Eagles, Angles, Angels, whatever you want to call him?
Well, at first, I don't want to say I was mad about it, but it was kind of like I don't know, like it was just a little disappointing because obviously the more your name is said on TV, the more, exposure you get and stuff like that. But then I realized one, that he actually did know my name. He said it right the first time he said it, and then after that, he just kept saying different stuff. So, and then two, it was like it was cool because obviously it got over on the internet and everybody started calling me Alan Eagles. On my Pro Wrestling Tees store, I'm gonna come out with a design that says like Alan Eagles, and then it's crossed out, says Angels under it. So hopefully,
I
if
feel
that
like he
sells.
was doing you a favor, if you ask me. Like, I feel like he knew exactly what he was doing.
A bit like what he's done to Sugar Dunkerton with the
Exactly.
Pineapple
Yeah.
Pete.
Anything Chris Jericho touches gets over. Like he got a plant pot over. He's got a clipboard over. And I think if he puts any effort in, he's probably just trying to give you like a bit of a boost. Because admittedly, after the match, I went to find you on Twitter. And I did put in Alan Eagles, and I was like, God damn it, Chris Jericho, like it's Alan Angels. But that still helped me remember you, if that makes any sense. So I feel like he knew what he was doing.
No, yeah, he told me that he's just trying to help us younger guys get over and give us something for the fans to remember us by.
Well,
So obviously I'm not mad about it, but it's super awesome. And if it sells T-shirts, I can't do anything but thank him.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, what about for the T-shirt then? Have like a list of Jericho on the shirt, but then it's got the Eagles crossed out, and then it's Angels.
Yeah. There you go. That's a good idea.
Yep, send us one over. So, how you felt about the, like, again, you've had Tony Schiavone, you've had Jericho, but then on Dark you've got Excalibur and Taz. Like, has it been quite surreal watching those matches back and seeing those four guys complement your work in the ring?
Yeah, Taz is like my favorite commentator as a kid. I when I was a kid, I could only watch SmackDown because I didn't have cable. So Taz was on the SmackDown call, and yeah, he was one of my favorites. So I really liked listening to him call my match and him just giving me props and stuff like that. That was that was pretty cool. I really like his new segment that he has where he like dissects moves.
Yeah,
that's so good.
Yeah, it makes everything more legit, and I love stuff like that.
It reminded me of something like out of Street Fighter at first, or Mortal Kombat, like where you see the move being dissected, and when he's doing like his narration over it, it makes it into like he's a sports analyst, like explaining why every move is so good. Because I think to a casual viewer who might not be as familiar with wrestling, it kind of like helps them look out for that move. And then when they see it, they're like, "Oh, that's that move Taz was talking about." And I don't know, it's just really cool, and I really like that AEW is doing something a little bit different like that.
I agree. Yeah, I think that's a really cool idea, and like I said, it just makes everything more legit. I'm super like into like I don't want to say like strong style wrestling, but as long as it looks real, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I want everything to look real. At the same time, I don't want anybody getting hurt, but I want it to look real, and anything that makes it more legit, I'm into. So I
think that's one of the reasons why I actually bought into the near falls with you and Kenny so much, because everything looked so real. In my head, I was thinking, well, there's no way he kicks out of that. And if you can make somebody who's a diehard fan genuinely think that the match is going to finish, that's a really good skill to have. And I think that when you do wrestle that stronger style, that's kind of easier to do.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you can make a casual fan say like, oh damn, like that dude's really hurt, but he's not really hurt, then that's kind of the goal for me, at least.
No, that's incredible. So if you used to do like Taz report on a move yourself for like your finisher, that one move that the AEW fans should be looking out for, what would it be, and what's the science behind that? Give us your best Taz impression.
So I have one move that I haven't hit on AEW yet. It's like my finish, so I'm not gonna hit my finish unless I'm gonna win. But it's called the wing snapper. So be on the lookout for that. It's a backstabber, but with my feet. I grab them by the wrists, and then I just like go on my back, put my feet into their back, and just
so like a straight jacket like that.
Oh no, like I just hold their arms like behind. Yeah.
Oh.
I just boom, but I put to the back. Yeah, so that's be on the lookout for that. Hopefully my first win will come from that.
I just want to see Sammy Guevara sell the shit to that move. I can just imagine him just flopping about to that.
Yeah. I love giving it to the more athletic guys for sure.
I don't think I've ever seen that move before.
No, yeah, I'm pretty sure I made it up. I've never seen anybody else do it, so I've been doing it for a while, but yeah.
At least we know what to look out for now, because I was actually wondering what your finisher was. I'm glad you asked, Kurt, because now we know to look out. When you hit it, I'll be like, it's over, it's done.
I haven't even gone for it because I figure like if I hook it, then nobody's gonna know what I'm doing, so like it'll be weird. But
you just come out and everyone's like, whoa, what the fuck was that?
yeah. I hope I get to hit it soon, man. Hope everybody gets to see it.
Well, one thing that a lot of the internet was talking about, which is suitable for AEW Dark, obviously the TNT Championship, that'll be at Double or Nothing, but a lot of people was clamoring for some sort of championship belt to be on AEW Dark. Is that something you'd want to see for guys like yourself, where you're up and coming, to go for that?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, dude, if I can win any championship on AEW, I'm down. So, yeah, I would absolutely love a AEW Dark Championship or whatever they would call it. I think it'd be awesome. I think it'd be a real good stepping stone for a lot of guys. If they could make AEW Dark kind of like their NXT, or at least like what NXT used to be as a kind of a stepping stone. I think that'd be awesome. Even if it's not dark and it's like some sort of developmental kind of thing, I'm definitely down to, do whatever I got to do to, get to the next step.
I can definitely see that happening in your future at some point. I think we are going to see you with some gold in AEW. It seems like you've had too many good matches there not to get signed at some point, and if you do get signed, it's only going to be a matter of time before you start picking up momentum, going up the rankings, and find your way to the tag team championships or something. Speaking of tag team championships, though, if you could pick anybody in AEW to go for the tag team championships with, who would it be?
So I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but probably Darby Allin, man. I think me and his style is just like clash, and I think my intensity matched with his intensity would make a really dope tag team.
Yeah.
Also, another guy that's been doing good, and he was on AEW last night, was Lee Johnson. Me and him actually have tag team titles at GPW where I wrestled QT. So yeah, I'd love to wrestle with him to win some AEW tag gold.
So you've definitely got some options if you do end up going for the AEW tag titles.
Yeah, for sure.
So is it trigger warning? Yourself and Lee? Yeah. So if you was to, so you've shown what you can do in singles competition. If you and Lee was to get a spot, whether it was on AEW Dark or Dynamite, let's say Dark, and you're getting that 6 to 8 minute time slot, who would you want your opponent to be?
Yeah, there's a lot of good tag teams in AEW. Obviously, like the Bucks are up there for sure. The Lucha Bros are up there for sure. Probably if I had to pick one, though, it'd probably be Private Party. Those guys are just insanely talented, and I love their gimmick and I love what they're doing. So I think we could get a really good match out of them.
Now here's hoping.
Well, one thing I want to know as well is who inspired your style? Like when you first started training, if you could choose or like put your finger on one person who you based yourself off, because as far as I know, every wrestler has that one person that they're like, oh, I want to be like Chris Jericho or Eddie Guerrero. Who was it for you?
So my favorite growing up was Shawn Michaels. And I think there's a little bit of Shawn Michaels in my wrestling style, but if I had to pick one person, it'd probably be Daniel Bryan, as far as like style goes and who I kind of model myself after. It'd probably be Bryan. I love all of his Ring of Honor stuff. I watch a lot of that. And then I think his run last year with the new Daniel Bryan stuff, I think that was the best run of his career. Even though like the whole Yes Movement stuff was probably the most legendary of his career, I think the new Daniel Bryan stuff was absolutely the best stuff he's ever done. So, I like watching all that stuff. He's one of those guys that he's not the most charismatic naturally, but he just loves wrestling so much and he loves the business so much that he almost like forced himself into getting better and getting a better character and a better persona, all that good stuff. Yeah, I would say Ring of Honor, Bryan Danielson would be up there for me.
His Ring of Honor run, like you said, was absolutely phenomenal. And the matches he had with, say, Nigel McGuinness, for example, just completely sold me on him. And he's one of those guys who he's been that hard-hitting technician, but he's also been a goofball too at the same time. He's like a Kurt Angle. He can do every single style of wrestling. He can be comedic. He can be hard-hitting. And he can be a face and a heel. There's nothing really Daniel Bryan can't do. And so is that something you want to do too? Like you want to dip into every single style of wrestling? You want to do a bit of comedy as well, perhaps?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well as Daniel Bryan, I think I am better at the kind of like serious, super intense kind of wrestling. I'm not the funniest guy in the world, but like I've done a few matches like that before. Yeah, I would love to dip into it eventually, but like Daniel, I think I'm better at the more serious, more intense type of wrestling. I love wrestling like big dudes, like Daniel's matches with Takeshi Morishima.
Yeah,
those are absolutely insane matches, and
and
I love wrestling. I love wrestling big guys like that. I had a match with a guy who just got signed to MLW. His name is Zachary Cooper in December of last year. And me and him, we had a really good match. He's a bigger guy, and I like thinking that those matches are, my matches of, me and Daniel Bryan versus Takeshi Morishima. I think they're kind of on the same route. So yeah, I'd love to try and do everything for sure.
Is there any large opponents, whether it's AEW, that you'd want to go in for that big guy, small guy mentality?
Yeah, I'd love to have a really good match with Wardlow. We haven't seen much of him in AEW, but he's really good. And his cage match with Cody was awesome. And I think he has potential, of future world champion potential, and I'd love to have a really good match with him.
Can we just appreciate how good his catch was of Cody? That was insane.
I know I'd be scared to catch a guy falling from that high, because that cage, I was there live, and that cage is so big. Like it's definitely bigger than a WWE cage. It was huge, and the fact that Cody even did a moonsault off of that in the first place is insane. And Wardlow is even crazier for standing under him and catching him. But he's a huge dude, so I'm not surprised.
He just made it seem so easy. Like he managed to catch Cody, make it safe, but then bump at the same time and make it look brutal. And I was like, wow, I haven't seen much of Wardlow, but that sold me on him completely. Like the fact that he seems like a really safe worker, and the way he threw around Marco Stunt last night on Dynamite. Oh God, I was like, that's brutal. What did Marco do? But I love it at the same time.
Marco's another guy that I love, and I'd love to have a match with him as well. Mostly because I also like wrestling really small guys, because then I can throw around and stuff. But yeah, I mean Marco's another guy who I had a match with him a long time ago, and we had a really good match. This was before he got signed, but we had a really good match together. So hopefully I get to do it again.
Well, before we wrap up the interview, Alan, I was having a look earlier, and it's a question I always ask at the end of the show is, have you got a pro wrestling tee store? And I know for a fact you do now. And I'd like to know where we can find your pro wrestling tee store. I'll drop the link in the description. But also, what merchandise can we expect to get from you?
Yeah, it's just Alan. I think the link is like prowrestlingtees.com/Angels t-shirts, and it just opened yesterday. So I'm super excited about it. I hope maybe next week after dark, a lot of people will buy some stuff. I got a few sales already, so I'm super hype about it. Like I said, we're gonna get a design where it says Allen Eagles, and Eagles is scratched out and it says Angels under it. We're gonna have a Allen Angels over the edge shirt, so that'll be cool. And hopefully more stuff just comes up, and we get to get some cool designs out there.
I always think it's cool, like for a wrestler when they get the first pro wrestling tee store, get the first merchandise out to see what they get, because like we're trying desperately to get to 10,000 followers on Twitter so we can open up our own pro wrestling tee store. Because we went to the shop last year when we went to All In, and we went to Pro Wrestling Tees, and it was just such a cool place. But it's kind of like my own personal dream to be able to go in there and buy my own T-shirt. I don't care if anyone else does it. I just want to be able to buy my own T-shirt from there.
Yeah.
So it must be pretty cool as a wrestler to have your own store as well.
Yeah, I mean, dude, even if nobody buys anything, I'm glad I just have one. It's pretty dope.
Yeah, it's like a bucket list thing, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So where can we find you on social media as well?
So on Twitter, it's Allen_Angels_, and then on Instagram, it's Allen_Angels. And then I have a Facebook too that like I kind of use, I guess. I don't know.
So just Allen Angels on there as well. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Now, thank you for coming on, man. And it has to be said, during such times throughout the world where people have been struggling and stuff, it's great to see something so positive come out of this, where yourself and other people have been given opportunities that may not have been there if this pandemic wasn't happening. And it's just been great to see, like you said, you've just took the ball and ran with it, and you've made sure, well, you've got your pro wrestling tee store out of it. That says everything. So congratulations, man, you deserve it, and we're looking forward to that match with Sammy Guevara.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate it, and thank you guys for having me on. It was awesome.
No problem, man. It'd be great to catch up with you again, maybe 6 months in the future, see what's happened with Allen Angels, and you never know, like where your AEW career is going to go. That was the question I asked earlier. What's next for you? Are you going to be wrestling in Japan? Will you have been to the UK? I'm excited to find out. So it would be cool to have you on again down the line.
Yeah, I look forward to it, man. Let me know.
Yeah, that first title win, we've got the exclusive.
Yeah. I got you guys.
Thank you, man. Take care.
See you later.
Cool. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.